drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello, and a very warm welcome. Yes, the Sunday Sermon is back with our live show this evening, and we hope it's a good one for you. We'll be chatting about several things that's happened in the racing world this week, from horses in Dundalk winning by landslides to Constitution Hill and Popeye, affordability, you name it, from songs that you like that no one else knows. Everything this show will have, so stay tuned for a good one. And if you're running the bathtub or sat with a big fat cigar, big lump of gin, then this show is for you. Right, welcome, John and Chris again. Nice to be back with a live show after two pre-recorded podcasts during our well-deserved Bar Stewards podcast winter break, which we like to have before the start of the real racing after the festival. We'll come on to the first talking point of this week. Obviously, it happened earlier on in the week, so I know this is old news to most people, but Constitution Hill, I'm sure some people would like our takes on this. It was mentioned on this show that I had a little bit of info that all was not quite right earlier in the season with Constitution Hill, which is why he didn't take up several engagements, including the Unibet at Cheltenham. And I was told that he had respiratory problems, so they were going to do a wind-up, and it was off a good source. And obviously, there's no way of me proving that that's true, because they're not going to come out and say it's true, even if it is. It's a waste of time trying to get kudos for that. But
he'll have proof if he turns up at Cheltenham with a washer in the middle of his neck, won't he?
Well,
he's been hogged.
It's coincidence again. Coincidence strikes with Desert Crown, etc. The info we get is not bad, I don't think. And I'd like to think that this horse, John, I don't think there's no chance of turning up at Cheltenham.
I'd be astonished because, he hasn't needed much of an excuse not to run it. No, he's got the perfect excuse, hasn't he? I think he sat there just dreading telling everybody he's knocked it off it, yeah, because I think that's what he wanted to do himself.
Well, he seems to be a man of any doubts whatsoever. He doesn't want to run the horse. He did it with Altior. He's done it with all these sort of stable stars, if you like. He started cherry picking on the ground after a while, saying, "Oh, it's too soft. No, it's heavy." He started making other excuses and saying, "Whoa, well, if Willie Mullins had one in, we don't want to take Willie. Well, we don't want to give the horse a hard race in this before Cheltenham." And he's that kind of trainer. So we get that. So I agree with you totally that I think Constitution Hill is $1 million to run at the Fez. And yeah, we're looking at State Man being a very short price for the Champion Hurdle. Now, there's lots of talk on whether this is good for the game, the way the horse has been handled. What do you think to Henderson? There's some people that defend Henderson and say, well, look, he's the trainer. He wants to look after the horse, make sure the horse turns up at his best every time. What's the right and wrong of all this?
Well, he's going in the box every morning, isn't he? We aren't, for starters, so we don't really know. All we've got to go on is the bits of info we read about Al not being well.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you've got a tip-top performer, or what you think is a tip-top performer, you're not going to run, are you? If you're having little niggly setbacks, breathing trouble, whatever, you're not going to run. You can't knock him for it. You can lightheartedly take the piss away a bit because he's got form for it, but you can see where he's coming from, really.
Do you think Nicky Henderson is different to, say, his Irish equivalents? Nicky Henderson's a great trainer, there's no doubt about it. In terms of his Irish equivalents, they don't seem bothered about getting beat.
Probably not bothered about getting beat, but I think the tip-top Irish trainers would not be running them if they didn't think they were right, because you can do damage.
Absolutely. I'd never advocate that. But I'm also saying that Galloping des Champs, for example, would he have had as many starts for Nicky Henderson as he's had for Willie Mullins?
Maybe not. It's hard to say, because if he's right and thriving, you would wonder why a trainer wouldn't crack on. I'll be honest with you, I haven't took enough notice of Endo's top chasers and that to see whether he's quite busy with them. I mean, what was Bobsworth like? Did that run a lot?
Well, Bobsworth, I think, did. I've made the comments that John Bond doesn't miss many dances.
No. So, I mean, he's not handcuffed to this. Now you see him, now you don't, malarkey, is he?
Is that saying that our info was correct then? Because obviously there's something not quite right this season.
Well, I'm inclined to go with the info because it's panning out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's had one run, it's beat Rhuboard, Kempton, which is absolutely dog toilet form. And I'm certain if something better than Rhuboard had turned up in that Kempton race, it might not have shown up there, you know. I just don't think he's had the horse right this year for whatever reason.
No.
And I suppose because it's such a pressurised horse, I mean, in a way, I'm not saying it's the Frankel of jumps racing, but it is the most focused on horse in jumps racing. So,
jumps racing's in a bit of a state, isn't it? There's a lot of people pinning their hopes on this being a really big noise.
Well, this brings me on to Cheltenham, right, for starters, because we like to say things before it happens rather than after.
Yes.
We don't Chris Pull.
No, we don't trumpet.
Chris Pull knows the score with this. I'm going to say this year will be the start of the decline of the Cheltenham Festival. We've had a few listeners on saying a few things. I couldn't believe this, that children aged 5 and above have to pay for a full price ticket of £75.
Jesus.
To
Is that right?
Yes, 100%.
Oh.
Four and under, it's free.
No.
So how does this work?
Mm.
You say you're a racing family, or all your family through generations have been interested in racing, and you've got a couple of grandkids, you've got a couple of kids, or whatever, that are 8 and 10 years old. You've got to pay £75 a head for them to experience a Cheltenham festival. I'm astonished at this. This is the start of the decline of Cheltenham and possibly national up racing. Are we right to feel this?
Someone's going to scare with, isn't it, when you're charging to take little kids in like that? I mean, I'd say it's taking them to Sedgefield on Champion Hurdle Day. If you want to take them racing.
Take them Alton Towers for that fucking money. Go to Cheltenham for that, would you? I mean, it's bollocks, isn't it? It's what we've said before, that racing and betting seems to be a Ponzi scheme, doesn't it? It's sort of just keep trying to find new ways to attract new people and to overcharge them. And eventually, you're going to get to a critical mass where people just can't afford it anymore, or it represents in their minds rank bad value. And, you know, they've been advertising as well. I think it's the Gaucho chain of restaurants has got a concession at Cheltenham this year where they're, you know, without any sense of irony or any sense of sensitivity to the current, economic environment, they're saying you can have a glass of, Chianti or something for 60 quid and a steak for £160. It's mad. You know, and eventually people are going to go, it's just too expensive. And I think where they've reached tipping point now.
I think it is, because the accommodations they set up, you know, the old porter cabins or whatever they were, these crates they put in a field, that had to get shelved because there was only, of the 300 potential bedrooms, if you like, if you want to give it a nice name, there was only 16 sold. And I just think now it's getting to a stage where, you know, when something gets really popular, but the powers that be that run it, they don't read the room. They don't see what's going on.
It's popular.
Exactly it. You know, the kind of the atmosphere running up to this year's festival has been kind of much more negative than it has been in previous years. There's been a lot more dissension about costs, about, you know, the kind of the races. There's a lot less enthusiasm, and I think allied with the increase in prices, I think this is, you know, Cheltenham ought to be quite worried, I think, this year.
Yeah, I think we're going to see maybe some figures.
I've listened to a couple of podcasts and that, you know, like preview nights and things.
Traitor. Fucking traitor. You know what happens to traitors? You at the forest, have you shot?
And try and nick some sort of material when we do ours.
Yeah, it's called research.
Look at the fuckers myself, haven't I?
No. Go on, John, what were you saying about...
Even though I think the general timbre of the podcast is quite downbeat, and half the time you get the impression that people don't even want to be there. You know, it used to be Cheltenham favourite, didn't it? You know,
it did. All the scarf wearers, the supporters, are all the owners, of which brings us nicely on to the next topic, really swiftly. So all you honeysuckle scarf wearers, I never knew this. You can't keep up with everything. Even if you're reading every sort of article as much as you can and doing your form study, I can't keep up with everything. I never knew this, that in 2020, Kenny Alexander, owner of Honeysuckle, apart from, did he nick a kebab van and get done for drunk driving or something?
Somebody said something about it,
Yeah.
But anyway,
you hope so, wouldn't you? That's a really cool thing to do. Yeah, you'd hope.
To be fair to Kenny, he's probably had a right laugh there. But anyway, going on, he was the driver behind affordability checks. He was the one that was recommending it to Parliament and the House of Lords. It's on video in 2020. So you're wearing his scarves, and then you're getting an email from your bookmaker saying,
tie your own noose, isn't it? It's almost like, you know.
Cheer on your own demise, if you like. But again, John, this brings us back to the funding model, doesn't it? Racing basically encourages mugs to come into the game to lose money because that's how the model's funded.
Once you've lost enough, the affordability checks will fuck you off. You get a new set of mugs in.
This brings me on to another point, and I managed to listen to a podcast this week from SBC, who Peter Ling, etc., do an excellent job there.
Smart betting club, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Harry Stewart Moore. Now, he's got a double-barreled surname, John, right? He's the man to lead the BHA. If you've got a double-barreled surname...
Was he in Doctor at Large?
I think it was in Doctor Who, wasn't he?
Anyway, right, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He's obviously a lawyer. He's represented bookmakers, but on the good side, he's represented gamblers that couldn't get money off bookmakers.
Yeah.
And on this podcast, he tells you about all those stories. And for me, it was such a great listen because he understands the game like we do.
Less worser than what we
speaks miles better.
He does. Is that what you mean? He's more eloquent. Even gooder.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I find it hard to believe anybody can express better than
exactly.
us.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're funnier than him. But anyway, so Harry Stewart Moore, this man should be speaking on behalf of racing. He even said on the podcast that racing should be saying this. Should be saying, look, why aren't we splitting national lottery? Why aren't we mentioning scratch cards? Why are scratch cards not touched? Why is slots ignored? Why is games of skill brushed under the carpet with everything else? He understands how the entire industry works. That's the difference. He'd be brilliant speaking on behalf of...
You see, like, you can get people like that and the art bloke. Racing should be going out and actively courting these people and putting them in key positions.
I think so.
Know? But instead, you go to Holborn, it's a pile of bloody kids. It's like fucking Bugsy Malone with real cars.
All that white foam everywhere. That's the problem, isn't it?
I'm envisaging that right now. I love that, John. Somebody like that, we badly need in racing. We do. I mean, Jeff Banks spoke to Farage the other night on
Jeff did his best, didn't he? But I mean, again, that was all stat because then you got Chilton getting thick end of a quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
Most of Jeff's stuff, Farage didn't have a clue what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I thought Jeff, to a certain extent, played a blinder as good as he could. But Farage didn't really bring the best out of him because he didn't know what he was on about.
Jeff runs a business, and I know, like, Jeff's not everyone's cup of tea in terms, like, some punters have not really got on with Jeff in terms of getting paid out, etc. Or we've had issues in regards to Jeff, but what Jeff says on this issue is absolutely brilliantly spoken and well put. Everything he does, he's fighting for racing because he knows that he's fucked. This carries on. We all are. So Gamblers Consumer Forum, my good friend and Councillor Woodman is part of the Gamblers Consumer Forum. And there was a great article this week on their website. I know this is boring to some because it's like, oh, we've done this, yada, yada. You write to your MP, it's on their site, and he's citing the Commission is breaching rules of a commission. Now, does that mean anything these days, Chris, if a commission itself breaches lots and lots of rules?
Of course not. No.
Well,
It doesn't
when you
make any
think it's down to the
difference.
MPs to pull them up, I mean, there's not an MP on the government side that's not breached a fucking rule out the town of
Well,
Beijing, is it?
it's precisely that. I mean, the trouble is, the mother of all parliaments. Look at the sort of the people that are now MPs. Irrespective of what your political views are, whether it's Tory, Labour, or whatever. Look at the people who are now standing up and talking in favour of affordability. I mean, look at Caroline Harris. I mean, Christ, she should be fucking ladling out jelly and custard to 5-year-olds. This is not a serious person. This person has so much contempt for democracy that she turns up in with blue fucking hair. Now, for anyone who says, "Oh, you shouldn't judge by appearances," I always go back to those people and say, so when you go to a job interview, you wear kimono, moon boots, and a top hat. Of course, people judge by appearances. If you want to be taken seriously, you got to look seriously. But this person, Caroline Harris, knows it's a done deal. They don't even have to try anymore. Right, so basically, she can turn up in Parliament looking like she does, sounding like she does, spouting rubbish, because it's a done deal. I really do believe it. I think it's doomed. I just don't see any way out.
She stood there and said it'll stop problem gambling, didn't she? And she wasn't even challenged.
Yes. No, she was exactly, John. She wasn't challenged because none of the people here are technocrats. They don't have any technical understanding of betting and gaming. They don't have any understanding of the culture. They are operating purely from an ideological position. Gambling is bad. Well, how do you know it's bad? Oh, it hurts people. How do we know that? Because we've got a lot of anecdotal evidence from people who have ascribed gambling to be the cause of their problems, and that never challenged. I lost. My wife left me because I gambled. Well, okay, fine. But did you mention your drug habit, your philandering, your whatever?
Yeah.
But it's all pinned down to gambling. No one challenges. They talk about evidence-based policy making. It's rubbish. This is pure ideology, and that's the issue.
Absolutely. This is bang on, Chris. And there's 3 points that the Gamblers Consumer Forum make in terms of breaches of conduct that the Gambling Commission have done. So after more than 3 years, the Gambling Commission still hasn't released the results of a survey, right, on people's attitudes towards affordability checks. More than 12,000 customers undertaken as part of its 2020 survey, not before the latest one, has been produced as evidence. And they cited it that it wasn't in the public interest.
Yeah, exactly. What does that mean?
Yeah,
what does that mean?
So that's one.
It means the results weren't there liking, and they're not going to publish them.
Correct.
Yeah, it's suppressing the information. That is a massive breach, surely. The Commission has already instituted a system of informal affordability checks by stating in its annual compliance and enforcement report that customers wishing to spend more than the national average should be asked to provide information to support a higher affordability trigger, such as 3 months pay slips, P60s, tax returns, or bank statements. That's in their requirements to bookmakers.
To have a bet. This is the big. Everyone seems to have missed this. We're talking about having a bet. We're not talking about buying a property, buying a house, buying something that's going to have affect other people. It's about having a bet. To undertake a leisure activity, you're going to have to justify it. And that to me, it's just so far. So much an attack on civil liberties. I just can't believe that no one's really taken up that cudgel.
And seeing the horror stories and more horror stories this week, it gets worse. There's a chap that basically has taken Sky Bet to court and won, and is at bailiff stage. So the judges ruled in favour. Sky Bet are still not paying, and this is what stage we're at, where Sky Bet officially have a CCJ. Now, so CCJs...
He could go around to Sky Bet with bailiffs and take Michael Shinner's home to do his housework or something.
That sounds like a ITV daytime TV show.
John. Yeah, good idea, right?
We'll pitch that to Peter Bazalgette or somebody. Yeah.
Sky Bet currently have a CCJ, County Court Judgment, right? Apparently that fails an affordability check, right? So that's it. License suspended. You cannot afford to pay out punters. I'm sorry, but it is bizarre.
It's bizarre, but it doesn't that show you the culture of contempt that has been allowed to flourish, the culture of contempt for gamblers and gambling. And this is, I lay this squarely at the door of politicians, of industry figures, and the Racing Post, because these people have been allowed to occupy the middle ground. Because they weren't challenged on day one, straight away, now they're in the middle. They're the reasonable ones, and everybody else is not just pro-gambling, they're pro-gambling harm. And this is racing having dropped the ball, and the BHA.
I would suggest we march on Westminster,
Racing
but
having dropped.
following Richie's speech on Friday night, if anybody turned up in a
I think we
card or
would.
star scarf,
Yeah.
I think we'd all get
You should
fucking
get free
necked.
square meals, though, wouldn't we? That's something.
Yeah.
Right, so we move on from the dreaded affordability. I know some of you are bored of this, but we have to discuss it because it is going to play a big part in our lives going forwards, and we have to keep on topic with it. Right, moving on, we go to Oddschecker. They've decided to charge £10 a month for price data. In other words, see, when you used to click on the horse, where you could see where the price had gone from 10s at 9 a.m. to 9 or 2 at, now it's £10. And they've chucked in Andy Holding's bad each way bets the night before as well.
Well worth a tenner. Yeah.
It's not as good as Bar Stewards, because Bar Stewards are £7 for Bar Stewards Extra. And honestly, it is just different class for £7. And if you want the brilliant stuff, which goes out at 11 a.m., that doesn't get your account knackered as quickly, that's the Bar Stewards Edge at £37 a month. We are seriously good at what we do, and I'm sorry. We are. That's it. Sometimes we're shit, sometimes we're not, but we're not totally shit, and that's what we pride ourselves on. But Oddschecker at that, John, Chris, they are totally shit at that £10 a month.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it?
No,
it's mad.
Yeah, but do you know?
Mad.
Right? Do you know what's more worrying? Reading more into it, think about how Oddschecker made all the money. They made it from affiliates. So punters would click on the affiliate, sign up, and then Oddschecker get a percentage of the losses. What does that tell you? That they now have to charge Billies to go on there and access price data.
There you go. The Ponzi scheme's gone pop, hasn't it? We've run out of punters.
BHA, the Ponzi scheme. That's the title of this show, by the way. The Ponzi scheme is going pop. I love that, Chris. Chris, you've come up with the title.
They've run out of mucks, haven't they? That's the problem, as we said. I mean, you don't have to be particularly, smart to have worked that out. I mean, it was obvious where it's going to go. There you are, Chris Paul. It was obvious.
It's yet another instance where the BHA could provide that information for free on their website that obviously needs a massive revamp. But all the sort of information that punters want should be readily available with the facility to make notes so they're not getting charged by the post. And then everybody's happy, and they're actually promoting and enabling people to have a bet. But they're too busy setting up a committee to count the fucking moon.
Yeah. So much sense being spoken tonight. And we've been consistent about it from a long time ago. We've not really changed stance too much on things. And I'm afraid the Oddschecker thing for me spells a decline already in the industry, because Oddschecker will be the main odds provider of people where they look to find the price of a horse. And if they're not earning the money and the cash for their people that want some payouts, then they charge people. That's how businesses work. All of a sudden it's like free. Now it's not free. That's what we did. We were totally free. We sold out to ourselves.
We put extra stuff on. I mean, what was free still free, isn't it?
Of course. That was my argument when people sort of slagged us off.
When we started charging for stuff that we were dishing out for now, I mean...
No. It's the same format as it's always been. So going on the back of that, another company in trouble, the Racing Post.
Oh, fucking bastards!
Yeah, bastards.
Put that in the title. Fucking bastards! I hate the
Racing. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, we love all this, right? So what about the Post plunging new debts and paying influencers plug their tipsters, said Matthew Forth. Right, I didn't know this.
I haven't.
He then replied to John on John's questions today and said that they're approaching sort of like influential racing podcasters to promote their tipsters like Paul Keeley, Pricewise, and are going to pay them £100 to do so.
Yeah.
Over the last few days, I've not been that active on Twitter myself, but there's people that have said the sickening sights of Pricewise being plugged by a random podcast because they're getting the £100.
Getting the 100 notes in the bin. Yeah. They'd put fucking Hitler for £100, wouldn't they? You know, that's the problem. What's more troubling is that the fact that the Racing Post thinks that, you know, the tactic of, you know, paying influential, in quotes, social media accounts to plug your product is not new. It's, you know, it's from the standard marketing playbook. But isn't it depressing that the sort of people that I've identified are considered to be influencers? These people wouldn't influence me to leave a burning car, you know. And the irony is that the real influencers in racing wouldn't do it. And that's the problem. And what you've got is just a cavalcade of Joe Swash lookalikes with fucking Baker's Boy flat caps on and Turkish barber skin fades and Giacomo suits being plugged to say, go and have a look at the Racing Post. And, you know, I find it's profoundly depressing that this is where we are now. These are the people who are considered to be influencers. I think it's just awful.
John?
Well, it's beyond belief, isn't it? You know, I mean, I've seen some of these influencers at work, and
no, I've got a lot of respect for
him. There was one there. He looked like the man who invented flammable cheese.
You take that back.
Well,
it's called. It's called. What is that? The Swiss do it, don't they? The melted cheese, don't they? What is it called? Yeah, the raclette. Yeah,
raclette or something.
I think it is. Yeah, it's fucking lovely. It is. Anyway, carry on.
There's another one there. I hope that Tracy can play the spoons or something. He was too much of a mess to be a gentleman's fluffer. If that's what's going to be plugged in the post, I think they're going to get 5 extra raiders.
Well, I can officially say they haven't approached the bar stewards, and so that leads me to my next question. Simon Holden, good friend of mine. I'm going to call him a friend of the show. He's a good friend of mine. What would the individual bar stewards require to be Racing Post influencers?
I would want,
like Chris. What would you? £280.
3.5 grams of ketamine and Mr. Kipling's fondant fancies, a box of. That'll do me. I'm in. So if they're listening, you know what to do.
Chris is easily bought on this show.
Set out, yeah. Oh yeah. I'll say out for some fucking cake. Honestly, anything, whatever you want. Just tell me what to say. Yeah, Lee Keys, what a cunt he is. Yeah, let's give me £100.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that all the time. But Chris is the easiest way into the bar. If you want to infiltrate
like
the
Tim
bar
Philby,
stewards,
I could be easily turned by foreign powers. Honestly.
It's like we love him and we love him on board, and it's like we love him in the boardroom and things. But it's like, you know, one day, like on Succession, he's just gonna turn and go, poor old Cliff Barnes, you know, like
God, keep going on about him, just leave it. It's done.
I can't stop talking about Cliff Barnes. But it is just like, yeah. John, obviously, me and you have morally high standards.
I'll just say this: anybody that thinks they're in a position where I should be influencing them needs to drop the anchor and have a complete rethink about the fucking life. Because they probably wouldn't say 50 if I was influencing anybody.
Exactly. Of course, a functioning alcoholic, so that more or less.
Gin.
It sort of clarifies my position, Simon Holden, in terms of what anyone could do for me. I mean, maybe a distillery somewhere would be quite nice. Right. Right. We move on. Davies, one of our contributors that will be back on the flat this season with us. Obviously, he's shit on the jumps, so we just deck him off. It's like when you put a ship into dock and you do all the furniture for the winter and then
scraping the barnacles off him.
Yeah. Then you wheel him back out, so we're wheeling back out for the Lincoln meeting and onwards. Nick will be back. He's a great summer flat judge.
Easy now to drag dock like the Queen there.
And he said, if Connections had to post the real reason for a non-runner, what would be your favourite? John?
Had a big fucking dust up with owner who didn't want to run.
No, I'd be old Julian Wilson. The cunts have nicked my
Like
prize.
that,
No,
yeah.
fuck you.
Yeah, Nick the Trace.
Blocked.
Yeah, but you'd run
I
the
would.
block, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one the other day, and it was in our like little group chat, wasn't it? Venetian, and obviously,
Yes.
do you think that's what they've done? Have they blocked it, John?
Well, so they don't take them out; they just run like
Yeah. But I mean, the old Julian Wilson, that was one of the
Yeah.
best articles ever written to the Racing Post. I've never seen such. If that was written now in this modern day,
God.
the BHA would be investigating him, saying, "Well, you're advocating bentness."
No, they wouldn't. He's a Harrow man.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, sorry. Wrong, wrong podcast.
Addressed to the BHA, kind regards,
Yes.
Cambridge.
Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells, yeah.
Indeed. Great question, Nick. I'm a massive Julian Wilson fan. That letter was probably one of the best I've seen written in the Racing Post for many a year, and I'll never forget that one. The old blocker. Well, if I don't get my 5-1, I'd just block it.
Yes.
There we go. That's Julian for you. John, didn't Julian Wilson watch a gallop? Was it Nash one?
Yeah, it was in his book. He nicked the price for
Unite. That was at Unite, yeah. He was the first onto the Gallop report.
He was probably lucky that Sheikh Mohammed wasn't after the price, so they made him
Yeah, we'll stop this fucker, yeah.
Good old jug ears. Right, we have some fantastic questions and a fun end to this week's show. So hopefully you're still awake by now. And we're speaking of being awake, sleep paralysis.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Right, Samuel the cat. I'm gonna big him up here because some of his questions are so tremendous.
They're the bollocks, aren't they?
Yeah, like really good, well thought out ones, like really thought provoking. And I've put no thought into this whatsoever. So
it's not obvious, by the way. No one can tell.
No, sleep paralysis is a scary random condition where you wake up, right, but simply cannot move. I think I've seen the producer do this one. If this occurred to you for say 10 minutes, which famous person in racing or life would be a nightmare if they popped in and sat on the end of your bed talking for 10 minutes and you can't do fuck all about it? John, I think this is one of your...
Give him a checkered history with dreams and things after eating cheese. And I think if I walk up to find Mick Fitz wearing a bagpuss mask, sat on the end of my bed talking about horse conformation, I think that would probably send me into full-on spasm.
For me, for medical reasons, because I think you'd want to get back to sleep more quickly, wouldn't you? I would say Richard Hoyles, because I think he is televisual mogadom, right? I think he's the most boring person imaginable.
You need to come back with your famous quote, what you think Richard Hoyles is.
Golf club bore.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a man of V-neck, string-back driving gloves, National Trust sticker on the rear window of his car, and a golf umbrella on the parcel shelf, right? And maybe a beaded seat cover. Pack 'em up because the weather can turn just like that.
Remember the beaded seat covers?
Good for your back, that.
Yeah.
I find. I'm sure he's obviously very knowledgeable, but I find him just stultifyingly boring. So I'd want him at the end of the bed so I could get back to sleep.
Like if Richard Hoyles would have been, say, born slightly earlier, would he have driven Austin Allegro Van den Pla?
Van den Pla, or an Austin Princess Van den Pla because he's doing quite well in life.
No, we're not going to be Austin Princess.
No, it has to be Van den Pla, though,
mate.
John.
Stick on walnut as well. Fucking
Allegro and Princess mean nothing without the Van den Pla.
Yeah, you've arrived if you got that. Honestly, you've got a few quid. You got the Van den Pla. So yes,
I've turned up in a Van den Pla.
That's the morphine equivalent of having a carpet on your wall.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yes, it's like a carriage clock on wheels, wasn't it? That's the thing.
It came with the rugs, didn't it? The
travel rug, keep your knees warm. I mean, and travel sweets. I think in the glove box as well. Those ones. Remember travel sweets? Do you remember them in the tin?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
two full of icing sugar and about 4
You got it.
sweets.
You got it. What was that about? It's like tons of icing sugar and these horrible kind of boiled sweets that kind of made you feel sick anyway. They're meant to, I think, calm travel sickness, but I always felt really pukey after them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was filled in up with Charlie.
Yeah, you couldn't. That'd be all right, wouldn't it? It's on the bag all the way up the races. Yeah. And then all
Yeah.
paranoid afterwards.
I finally realised, after all, this is how naive I can be even sometimes, why the Cheltenham Fez bogs have got long
Yeah.
queues.
Really? Yeah, you've only just worked that out.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I genuinely thought they were just busting for a piss after 4 pints of Guinness.
So everybody had the shit on the same.
No.
Well, I did, as we've said on previous shows.
They're amateurs. They should take those little bullet ones that you have it all pre-chopped and just stick up your nose in public. Honestly, only mugs go out there in the toilets. Honestly, terrible. Amateurs.
Yeah, they do.
Amateurs.
They do.
Nice with a sandwich of piccalilli and down your trousers as well.
No good sniffing piss off the system, is it?
John's personally on Twitter was really good because he asked lots of questions. So I was intrigued by some of these. John's first question: do silent dog whistles all sound the same?
Well, it was a funny thing. I was in Stewart Park this week, and there was somebody there with one of them dog whistles that you can't hear, but the dog can. And she gave it a blast, and this fucking dog comes straight back, And I thought, why haven't all the other dogs come to her?
That's very true, isn't it? You can alter the frequency on those whistles. God, we're boring. But you can do it, but she may have trained that dog to respond to that particular setting. Who knows?
Yeah.
But then what happens if you're in a park and then some of these other dogs have got to that setting?
Well, I've seen it. Well, I've seen people blow up dog whistle and 500 dogs turn up. So it does happen. I've seen it many. So that is that is a feature.
You've got the makings of a fan dog fight.
Yeah, that is a feature of the dog whistle. So I have seen it. Yeah, it's possible, but not very few people.
So, Chris, I mean, you're a dog lover. So imagine a busy park. You're all walking your dogs, having a fun time. Yep. All bouncing around, happy as Larry. Big smiles on the faces. Next minute, you all blow dog whistles, and they all run in different.
Well, it would be true. A, my dogs don't come back anyway because they're so badly trained, and B, they're on the lead, they're the ones that sort of everyone else kind of avoids. So I have to say I'm not the best of dog owners, but yeah, it's chaotic. But very few people use dog whistles nowadays. It's kind of a thing of the past, really. So maybe it's a northern thing, John. Perhaps. Yeah.
Must be.
Anything north of about
100 years out of date, isn't it?
No interest
None whatsoever.
Your ideal Fez preview night, John says, lineup. So Tony Harding came back with, I think, a serious answer. I'm not sure. Barney Curley, Big Mac, Luke Harvey, Mystic Meg, and Judi Dench, with the comparers Tomer. John said Dench is essential for a Fez insight. John, do you care to expand?
Well, she was in James Bond. She must be out of France somewhere else at place, wouldn't she?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
She's already open deciphering Willie's running plans.
Honestly, it's true.
An ideal preview night. It's us, isn't it?
Frank Berry. All you need is Frank Berry. That's it. Don't need anyone else nowadays, do you? Just tell us all the JP plots, or what he's heard, what other people are running. That's all you need. Frank Berry. That's it. No one else.
Well, they say now the main guy on Betfair Machine is JP's
Kieran, is it?
young lad. Yeah. That's what everyone. Chris, if you had a line into that, what he's clicking.
You'd want that. That's what you want. You'd give up. Work, wouldn't you? You wouldn't need to work again, would you?
Yeah.
So if he's listening, come on and tell us everything you're going to be betting.
Either that, you just want a bit of eye candy and a bit of pie and peas. You can't beat good pie and peas at a Cheltenham Festival preview because that is what makes it for us northern people. We just like pie and peas and a bit of gravy.
Can't knock that as well. That's not just a northern thing. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, that'll do me.
So pie and peas, fry in a Gloucester FC bikini. And
God. Fucking hell.
No arms notes, and we could pack a pub out at 20 quid a ticket.
Yeah, at least.
I think so. I'm saying so. This would be X-rated though as well. It would probably get cancelled at the last minute by the
police.
The BHA would come in and say, no, we're not.
We're going to bring the sport into disrepute charge, wouldn't we?
A number of other kindred
For sure.
offences as well.
For sure. Dundalk jockey bands. It was Wrecking Ball Paul that absolutely pissed up this week at Dundalk. I think 12 of the 14 jockeys have got banned. I don't know what to make of it because the horse went quite rabid for first 2 or 3 furlongs. Did a 37 and a 35 mile an hour. For 2 miles, it's quick enough and still kept going, John.
It's all right banning these lads, you know. What if they're running into one that's jousted up? You know.
No one knows. I mean, honestly, I can't read anything into the data that suggests.
Bet your bollocks the winner doesn't get tested.
Well, I don't know what to say because I watched the early fractions and thought, "Ooh, that's quick enough." Like he did slow it down, but
but the last thing that the rulers would want now would be for a positive test on winner.
Oh yeah,
we're not going to hear any more about that.
I'll be honest, my initial response, and I'm not saying I'm right because I'm not confident I'm right, but I'm saying that I feel sorry for the jockeys' bands.
Yeah, because they haven't stopped nothing. They've just fucked up, haven't they?
Everyone fucks up in a race. Do you get banned for fucking up in a race? Or holding up an horse out the back at Beverley over 7, John, and coming fast and finishing second by half a length? Do you get banned for that?
Well, if you did, you'd be fighting shy of any jockeys in the north by midsummer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd all be on the beach towels in Tenerife or something.
Right, your next point. Racing purse price rise. It now costs...
We're due next week, aren't we?
Currently, of course, it costs more than an affordability check to be able to bet. So you can buy the paper every day to study your form and work out your bets.
How much is it? Yeah.
It's about £5, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
It's a newspaper. Is that £5 for a newspaper?
I mean, the online version is cheaper, but...
Absolutely mad.
It is. But, I mean, most people will use the online version now. But the Racing Purse, I don't know what it's doing as a business.
Yeah, for sure.
But the model's completely wrong. Because, obviously, what's funny is Lee Mottershead will produce a nice article on affordability checks. And then the next day, it's promoting... Get a free bet with MGM. Bet MGM. Golden era for sports betting. We're in a golden era.
Bet now.
So that's the Racing Purse. John Dance has committed the biggest fraud, apparently, that has ever been, according to recent reports.
Will there ever be another Vertum Futurity?
Yeah, and what are we saying to Sir Michael Stout's former assistant, James Horton? Are we hoping he's reincarnated?
Well, he's gone back to Yelmanaki, hasn't he?
Is that what he's done?
Yeah. And I understand he's got an HBO in, and he is open. The lad kicks on from the nightmare that he had last year that was no fault of his own.
Indeed. Yeah, all sympathies to James Horton and to John Dance. That's what they do at the big table. They like fingers in pies, just like everyone at top tables of quangos, of numerous organisations, mentioning no names, of course. I never do. But yes, that's what happens. Your biggest festival disaster. Right. I would say my biggest festival disaster was laying Moscow Flyer to win the champion chase after a certain info merchant told me this had travelled over terribly, not eaten up, and I followed it to the letter. Again, one in the eye for the info merchants, Chris. You love an info bet. The info bet left me with pennies for the week. I decided to take it as gospel. And
it hasn't travelled over very well. It might not even be honest. Yeah, was it that kind of info? I bet it was.
Your accent is tremendous.
I can't say anything in Irish without the word fucking in it, unfortunately, so I would be no good on...
Watch Brad Pitt in Snatch if you want a great Irish accent. So that was my disaster. John, you must have had one.
Oh, I did. When I was... Jesus, how old would I be? Be about 86, I think. I got some rocks. It's all information, this, that causes disasters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I got some rock-solid information from Jimmy Fitzgerald's yard about handicap chaser called Joint Sovereignty, going to run in the 2.5 mile chase. And being young and stupid and thinking information was the be all and end all, I managed to just about get every penny I had to my name on this thing, and it got stuffed, and I was on a wait a Bix month.
Yeah, it's always the same thing for me, info. By the way, I do employ certain people within the racing industry that supply me with information, but I interpret it as I see fit.
Yeah.
I don't just
Yeah.
go to bed with anything. I don't just say, oh, well. And that's how we do things. Because these guys, let's be fair, whilst you get certain gems from, there will also be very badly put away rubbish.
There's info and there's info. I think you've said before, Lee, isn't it? You know, a handful of times a year you'll get something that you can really go to war with.
I separate it, Chris, between primary info and secondary info. The secondary info is where everyone's saying it on Twitter at that point.
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
The primary info is like where no one's saying it on Twitter. No one's saying anything about that. Like you've just said, there's times, maybe I would say 6 to 10 times a year, I will get seriously good primary info. And you'll say, well, how do you deduce that? That comes with experience and time to like work out that, hang on, this is actually right.
And they don't often know, do they? I think it's fair to say that they don't always know that they're in possession of prime info.
No.
They'll pass something on, but in the context of your analysis of a race or your knowledge, you'll say, actually, that piece of work is a hell of a lot more significant than at first blush.
I've always said this on previous podcasts, that the best info I get is something works to 70. They'll say it's gun barrel straight, there's no vices, it's not got a wind up, it's not very talented. Well, no one wants to back it in Newmarket because it's 70, right?
Nope.
But they don't work out that you only have to be 65 to win that race. So you go off like 4 and 5 to 1 because no one's backing it in Newmarket. No one's telling the punters. But that's what I'm saying. So sometimes you do get some gems like that.
Really, isn't it? Avoid the sexy horses.
Yeah, the ones that are just blowing away like lead horses by 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Impressing Chris Wall, those sort of ones where he gets off his bike and says, guineas
well,
for this.
Well,
guineas.
There's a reason he's fucking packed in, Chris Wall. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I'm about to say that.
Anyway,
fucking
let's finish off this podcast with a fun question, and it's from Rap Podcast. We like Rap Podcasts. What racing is all about podcast.
Yes.
What's your favourite song no one remembers? He's come with a few, and he's come with The First Picture of You, The Lotus Eaters, Mr. Soft Cockney Rebel, I'm a Broken Dream, Python Lee Jackson. Chris, this is really your subject as well. Well, probably John's, but like,
definitely John's as well. Yeah, I would say I would recommend that listeners spend 20 minutes going on YouTube and digging out a handful of recordings made by Charles Manson. Right? Yeah, the Charles Manson, the lunatic pimp and murder, because the Charles Manson story is closely interwoven with people like Terry Melcher, which is Doris Day's son, Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys, which was started all off the whole Helter Skelter thing. But Manson, who desperately wanted to be a folk musician, recorded a handful of cover versions of things like Invisible Tears, Close to You, and an original composition called Look at Your Game Girl. Now, the rest of Manson's work is absolute rubbish. It's just nonsense, just screeching and wailing. But prior to his incarceration, he did a number of really good covers. And I defy anyone not to listen to that, not knowing it's Charles Manson, say, that's really good. He's got a really good folk voice. So Charles Manson, check him out.
Good stuff. John?
One that people probably haven't heard of, Hoyt Axton, Della and the Dealer. That is a country classic in my mind. Do check it out. It's a good, fun song.
Right, I'm going to check that out. I'm too mainstream, really. I'm like one of these like S Club 7 guys, you know what I mean?
X Factor.
You don't like all that shit, right? So, but the one thing I always remember, and I don't know if anyone remembers this, the Channel 4 show, The Word.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
L7 played.
Yep.
And I think they either played Let's Pretend That We're Dead or The Monster.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
vaguely I
L7,
remember that.
all-girl rock band.
Yeah, yeah.
And they clothed off live on the show, like while playing it. They were getting like all the staff behind this were like putting clothes over them. If you find that footage, it's rather bizarre.
It was anything goes, that show, wasn't it?
Yeah, there
Danny
was.
Bear,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yogi's sister.
Danny Bear. Did
Danny
Mark
Bear,
Lamar
yeah,
present
yeah.
that, maybe?
He was on in Terry Christian.
Terry Christian.
He's a wanker, Mark Lamar. Mark Lamar's blocked me on Twitter months ago.
Wanker.
Yeah, bastard. Yeah.
Right.
Everybody used to fancy Danny Bear. I always thought the other one looked absolutely filthy, that Katie Puckrick.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I went years thinking there was something wrong with me because I fancied her more than Danny Bear.
Yeah, Danny Bear.
No,
obviously, Danny Bear was the main one. But yeah, that was my memories of something that somebody might not remember. But I am far too mainstream, unlike Chris and John. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I really do. We're back with full on attack. We're back with Friday shows from next week. A Cheltenham preview will follow on the Monday evening, and we're very excited for the weeks ahead, as of course building up onto the road to Doncaster. That's all from me, John and Chris. Bye for now.